So we're going to stay in the SEC for this last prediction too, Ryan, just because that's just the nature of what this weekend's games are. And number 23 Cincinnati goes to number 19 Arkansas. It is kind of fun. Cincinnati makes the playoff, and a year later they're barely in the top 25. And that is not a disrespect thing as much as a group of 5 team is usually not as positioned to handle the kind of massive personnel losses that Cincinnati had. Arkansas had their fair share of losses as well, Ryan. What's your prediction and how do you see this game playing out? Because I think we see it somewhat similarly.
Yeah, I really like what Arkansas is doing, if I'm being completely honest. I love Sam Pittman as a coach. I was not a Sam Pittman fan when the hire was made. I had a lot of skepticism. Like it screamed Matt Luke to me for a little bit there. Like, to be very honest. I agree
with you 100%. 100%.
Yeah, like great offensive line coach, sure. Sometimes guys
good recruiter, sure,
fit as a head coach, right? Like some guys just aren't made for that. And I was wrong about Sam Pittman. I think he's done a tremendous job. I like that they have, a lot coming back on that defensive side of the football, Bumper Pool and Jalen Catalon hopefully being fully healthy. I like the offense that they run. I think it's something where you really accentuate to KJ Jefferson's strengths as a runner and as a deep ball thrower. I know they lost Treylon Burks, but I still think they have enough as far as talent around him to be to create some explosive plays and to be physical more than anything. Like they have a really physical nature to them and offensive line. So in Cincinnati, for me, Brian, like I think that Luke Fickell has done about as well as I could have imagined him doing in Cincinnati, man. They've turned that program to a really good team, but the fact is that they've lost a lot of players. And I know we talked about Georgia and coaches, but I know we talked about Georgia losing a lot of players. Georgia, with how they recruit, SEC school, national championship winner last year, you can reload a little bit, right? Sure. Like there's some 5-star, 4-star guys that are just kind of waiting in the wings. It's like the Alabama type of thing, right? Ohio State type of thing. Those schools recruit to that degree so that when they lose a lot of great talent, they put in other great talents right kind of into the forefront. Cincinnati, I don't think is at that point, obviously, right? Like they're not recruiting to that high of degree. So when you have that much of an exodus, Desmond Ridder, Alec Pierce, the defensive side of the football with everyone that left.
Jerome Ford, a running back.
Jerome Ford, very talented player. So when you lose all those players when you're Cincinnati, I think that there's going to be a little bit of a transitional period. I still think they're going to be a good football team, but I don't think they're going to be nearly as good as they were last year, obviously. So I have Arkansas 37, Cincinnati 21. I think it's a tough draw for Cincinnati early in the year, and I think that Arkansas is an ascending SEC team, and I think they're going to be a really tough out this year.
You said 37-20. I went 30-20. I don't know if Arkansas is going to have the firepower to go for 37 unless it's just one of those ones where, they get a big play early, big play late. Maybe they overwhelm Cincinnati. I actually am more confident in Arkansas getting 37 than I am Cincinnati getting more than 20. I could see it even being more lopsided. I think this offense is going to struggle for Cincinnati. I do. I don't think Arkansas has a brilliant defense. They do have a lot of guys coming back, and they're going to be good in the trenches. The thing that hurts Cincinnati is, again, Ryan, you made the point. You're not replacing them with great recruiting classes. You're now 2 years removed from your best recruiter being gone, right? And 3 years removed from another one of your better recruiters being gone, and Mike Mickens, who did go recruit Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant, those guys. And you lost 3 of your secondary starters. I think they lost both of their inside. I know Beavers is gone. Did they also use DeBlano? Is he also gone, or is he back as well?
That's 41, right?
Correct. The Mike.
I think they have. It's either he's back or Van Fossum's back.
One is back and one is back. You lost Myjai Sanders. You mentioned. Alec Pierce was a legit home run threat at receiver last year. Jerome Ford was a legit home run threat at running back last year. You lost all those guys. And if we're being honest, and this was the criticism we had of Cincinnati all year last year, Cincinnati was a team that won a lot of competitive games. And they were really well coached. They beat Indiana by 14. They were trailing a good chunk of that game. Obviously outplayed Notre Dame. But to me, beat Navy 27-20, beat Tulsa 28-20. They had a lot of games. You're just like, Tulane, they won 31-12, but they looked bad in that game. They were a tough, hard-nosed team. Not only did they lose all those players, you lost Mike Denbrock as your offensive coordinator. Their DB coach that went to Cincinnati. that it's now 2 years in a row your staff has been rated. I like Luke Fickell as a coach. I don't see him being a guy that's going to be able to overcome those losses and then go on the road and beat a good SEC team, like you said. And I love KJ Jefferson as a quarterback. And they had some really good wins last year. I'll be on board as one of those people that kind of laughed, honestly, when they hired Sam Pittman. I was like, seriously, you hired Sam Pittman? And then, of course, even in the 3-7 season, though, Ryan, in 2020, you could kind of see it. Like, you could kind of see it. Like, you know what? Like, they're 3-7, but they just have a different feel. They were tough. They were physical. They lost. I mean, they lost by 3 to LSU. They lost by 2 to Missouri. They lost by 2 to Auburn, and they got blown out a couple other times, but, got blown out by Florida, who kind of blew everybody out, got blown out by Bama, got blown out by Georgia. But they were in a lot of those games, had a convincing win over Ole Miss, had a convincing win over Tennessee. Like, you could see, like, you know what? Even in the 3-7 year, I was like, I think I might have been wrong about Sam Pittman. And then, so I wasn't completely shocked when they came out last year and won 9 games, even though I would have been completely shocked if you'd have told me that when they hired him pre-2020. And so I love what he's done. He's recruiting well. They've got some transfers to fill some spots. They're tough. They're physical. They're a little too conservative at times offensively, but they kind of opened up a little bit later in the year. I really like what he's doing, and I don't think Cincinnati has the firepower on offense to stay in this game. I don't think that they're going to have the athletes on defense to keep Arkansas in check. I go 30-20, but if I'm going to be wrong on this prediction, Ryan, the wrong that I'm going to have is the spread. I think it'll be a more convincing win for Arkansas. Saying 30-20 is me giving respect to Luke Fickell. Sure. That's why I have it as a 10-point game. If it wasn't for respecting him as a coach, I would have it as a much more convincing loss, because group of 5 teams just can't lose that much talent and then be ready to replace it in game 1. If this game was in a month and a half, I might give Cincinnati a little bit better shot. But they're not going to be able to do what Ohio State, Notre Dame, teams like that can do, Georgia, teams like that can do, which is just you're replacing one dude with another dude, and sometimes an even more talented dude. There is no Sauce Gardner on their roster. That's a generational player. There is no Alec Pierce left coming back. And I like Tyler Scott, right? He's a good football player. He's the guy that smoked Kyle Hamilton for a touchdown, right? But he may step into Alec Pierce's role, as a number 1 guy, but then who steps into his? Who steps into Michael Young's? Who steps into Jerome Ford's? That's where I think Cincinnati is going to be lacking.
I mean, because they got a steal with Jerome Ford. I mean, that kid was at Alabama, right? Like, they got an Alabama football player to come play running back for them. And now, Desmond Ridder, I wasn't the biggest Desmond Ridder fan of all time, but like, he was a 4-year starting quarterback, like
he was a winner.
Supplement that type of experience.
You use that lame excuse, right? We can use it, but I really felt that about Desmond Ridder. Here's the thing I always respected about Desmond. Thought he was overrated, but when he had his best games, more often than not, was in their biggest games. I mean, he would look like garbage against Toledo and just play terrible, but then come out in the Pac or against SMU when SMU was ranked, or against Notre Dame and make some money throws. I mean, he made some money throws against Notre Dame in that game. To have the guts to go at Kyle. I mean, like, I know Kyle got beat on that play, but a lot of quarterbacks would have never seen that happen because they're not even looking at Kyle Hamilton on that play.
That was the seam ball, right? To
the corner route. No, I'm talking about the corner route for the touchdown. I think it was to Tyler Scott. Like, they're not even going to look at that throw.
Is that the one where Kyle jumped too early or whatever?
It just got beat on. Yeah, he got beat on a double move and got beat on the corner route. The seam throw that you're talking about too was also really good.
It was a good ball.
They got Corey Kiner, I believe. I'm looking at their roster now. I thought
LSU?
They got from LSU. He's a good player. I liked him coming out of high school, but he's not the home run threat Jerome Ford is, and that's what they need. They need that guy can be a home run threat. So,
because their offensive line's not very good.
No, it's not.
It's very
not.
average.
Yeah, it's not. So that's kind of how I see this game playing out, Ryan. I think it's. I don't think it's the first 2 games. I think we think are going to be competitive at least for a while, one way or the other. This is one that I don't think is ever going to be in doubt. Even though I don't expect a huge score spread, it's going to be kind of like, like the 2015 Notre Dame Fiesta Bowl lost Ohio State. It was 16 points, but it was never competitive. I think it's going to be kind of one of those kind of games where, it's like I'm trying to remember, was it the year that Ohio State was Harbaugh's first year when Ohio State was up like 10-3 at halftime, but you just kind of knew like this isn't really a competitive game. I think it's going to be something like that, to be honest with you.